Hey friends, this is Paul DeBettings, and I have put together what I think is about not a 5 minute sort of quick basics or 101 on recruiting for startups, small tech companies. It's a presentation that I've been doing. Frankly, a microcosm of a presentation I've been doing a lot over the last few years. The last calendar year, including Twin City Startup Week, Google for Entrepreneurs. I was at the Michigan Recruiters Conference back in March, doing a presentation for the Minnesota HR Tech Expo. And the other reason why I'm doing this is because I'm not actually doing a presentation at Minibar on recruiting this year. And so rather than do a 1 hour presentation here or the half-day boot camps that I've been doing for groups in town, I'm going to see if I can't condense it all into 5 minutes or so. So it's going to be pretty basic, pretty 101 in that sense. You're certainly going to have follow-up questions afterwards. So for some people, it's going to be like how to get started, reminders, things like that. Real quick info about me. I've been recruiting IT people here in Minneapolis for 17 plus years now, writing the blog for more than a decade, do a lot of speaking, recruiter and HR related. And then later this July, I'm bringing in a bunch of national speakers. We're going to have what's called Midwest Recruiting Boot Camp. And so it's going to be a lot of blocking and tackling, very basic things. I think a lot of recruiter and HR folks who have come into the industry, particularly since the recession, may need to kind of either get trained up on or frankly hone their skills a little bit. So that's some info about me. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at MNHeadhunter. Frequent conversation now over the last, we came off the bottom of the IT hiring market in March of 2010. We're now 5 years past that. Folks have been tossing around the phrase, the war for talent. Frankly, I'm not all that big on that phrase, but skill shortage or whatnot. Part of why I'm putting this together too is kind of refute some of those things. I think that a lot of times people are talking about that there's a skill shortage, but quite frankly, their recruiting isn't very good. So just trying to try to give a quick, sort of a bigger picture on some of these things. So a couple of questions and then the statement, then we'll get into the points on this. How much time are you actually spending recruiting? Like, think about it. Like, how much time are you actually spending calling folks, sending email, attending events? We're going to talk about all these things here in a minute. How much time are you spending? And does anyone know you are hiring? Like, are you doing an okay job promoting and marketing your job descriptions, your career page, your company as an employer? Like, do people even know that you exist? We really can't talk about those things. We really can't talk about the war for talent until we talk about those things. And just in general, like, how aggressive are you being? I've got a slide for part of my boot camp training. It's a really bad clip art of a guy sitting on the shore of Lake Minnetonka with a bobber, and he's just tossing his bobber out. And quite frankly, that's how most people are recruiting, right? They're just taking a lure, casting out, and they're hoping that the right fish will come by. Not that I want to compare a Ruby developer to a walleye, but I guess I am for the moment. Like, how aggressive are you being? Are you getting in your boat? Are you fishing structure? Are you casting different lures at different places at different times? There's more to recruiting than just posting something on your website. So let's start with there, right? Think about your career page. Is there anything compelling to it? Is there content that will engage candidates? Like, are you writing for candidates, or is it just kind of a copy and paste of your general marketing material about your company? Also included in that is like, what's it like to work for you? More than that, like, why would somebody come work for you? I mean, think about how it is that you're promoting the opportunities at your companies before you start saying that there's a war for talent, you can't find who you're looking for. Really take a step and audit yourself about the content you're putting out, which gets us the job descriptions. Quite frankly, most of them suck. It's just true. And there's two ways you can normally tell if a job post does suck. One is there like 10 or more bullet points? If so, really? Second of all is if there isn't any information, again, about you, why to come work for you, and I mean you or your company, right? Is there any information about why it is that they should leave their current full-time or consulting gig to come work for you? If not, odds are your job description sucks. I've heard a lot of folks saying, well, but the job boards are dead. And I think that's I think part of the reason why they're dead is we have bad job descriptions. I think the second reason why maybe they're dead is that folks, They're not using them in the right way. And of course, that's a whole presentation for another day. Short version is this. Would I be try this again. Am I posting jobs with my and for my clients on job boards? Absolutely. Okay. At a minimum, if nothing else, I'm using the job boards as a way to be able to kind of like PR, market, company branding of the clients that I'm working for. So absolutely, I'm using the job boards in the recruiting that we're doing. As we're auditing things in this, right? Like take a step back and audit yourself, right? Think about we're out searching for candidates online. They're searching for us too. Or once we contact them, they're searching for us, right? So think about your profiles. Would you connect with you? If you looked at your LinkedIn account from the perspective of an iOS developer as a potential CFO, would you want to connect with you? So I've got LinkedIn listed here. Here's the example. If you send an email or an in-mail to a iOS developer today, and let's assume that they received 5 such in-mail this week, what's likely the first thing? Well, besides they read it, well, let's hope they read it. But then what are they going to do right away? They're going to click on your LinkedIn profile. So is it compelling? Does it say you're hiring? In your summary sections, do you list the jobs, the skill sets that you're going to be recruiting for, whether it's today, this quarter, or this year? If they look at your experience section, did you actually fill it out from your previous jobs, your previous companies that you helped run? I mean, do you show a track record of someone that they would want to come work for? Twitter account, are you just putting out content? Are you engaging with folks? Facebook, same thing. I get people to say, but that's friends and family. Look, your friends and family have friends who could be your next developer, your next marketing generalist, your next HR person, your next recruiter, your next CFO. Why wouldn't you now and again, once a week or something, be promoting the company and what you're doing? I think to not to is a really huge mistake. So I do this with my clients all the time. I create social media calendars for them. They need to tweet something Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm making this up, right? Tweet Monday, Wednesday, Friday a couple of times, Tuesday, Thursday, LinkedIn updates. Wednesday might be a Facebook post. That's not the actual recipe, but just to give you an idea. In some cases, I will actually I'll pre-write everything for them if I can. Or particularly around recruiting messages, or we've got an event coming up, or we're attending Minibar and we're hiring, and I'll use the hashtag we're hiring. So some folks will say, well, I don't have time to actually tweet. By the way, that only takes about 30 seconds. Well, if you're slow. So I try to create the calendars for folks ahead of time. So speaking of tweeting out that you're going to be attending like Minibar as an example, are you attending events? Are you going to user groups and meetups? So are you going to Mini Demo? Are you going to Minibar? Are you going to the JavaScript user group? Are you going to MEMA, the Minnesota Interactive Marketing Association? Are you going where your future employees are already hanging out? Like, go to them. Don't be just that guy sitting on the shore at Lake Minnetonka with his bobber out there, right? You need to be attending events and getting in touch with people. So think about this in the sense of, right, we do sales pipelines all the time. You need to be doing this for recruiting too, right? So we're hunting for developers, analysts, or marketing people today, but we also know that we're going to be looking for them next quarter or later this year, hunting and farming. So you have to be doing both, which really gets down to a question of how many people are you talking to in a given week or month, right? So if you know that you need to hire, I'm making this up, you need to hire 6 mobile developers after Labor Day. Well, if you're going to hire 6, means you're going to interview Z, right? That means you're going to phone screen Y. You're going to recruit X. Like, you start backing it up, right? Suddenly, your 6 developers becomes a pool of probably more than 50 that you're going to originally start talking to. So you have to be able to build up that pipeline. So you've got a good career page. Your job posts don't suck. People can find information about you. You're attending events. Now we're actually talking about interviewing people. So how long does that take? Like, what is your interview process? Is it painful for you? Because if it's painful for you, it's painful for the candidate, for starters. How long does it take you to get through the interview process? And is that like a phone screen and an in-person interview for a half a day? Or is it like 2 or 3 phone calls and you have to come into the office 2 or 3 times? That's really inefficient both for your time and then for the candidate as well too. So what's that process like? Is it user-friendly for your candidates? And quite frankly, is it user-friendly for you? I'm actually notorious for measuring things. I measure everything as best I can. It's kind of my version of being a little nerdy. So for myself on my blog, I'm constantly looking at the number of sessions, the number of visitors, particularly to specific blog posts. I'm thinking about the job posts, how many people are clicking on those. I try to figure out how many folks are sending me resumes from that alone. I use Google URL shortener for all of my tweets. Regardless of the topic, it could be anything from an article that is in the Business Journal or Tech.mn. It could be information about jobs that we're recruiting for one of the startups. Heck, it could be about the Minnesota Wild. But I do use those URL shorteners as a way to be able to figure out what are people clicking on. And I do the same thing for clients too. I do all that too, including we will do A/B testing of job posts. Which tone works better than others? Which site's working better than others? In some cases, we try to get it down to what day and time of the day is actually better than others. There's a lot of science that's gone into this over the years, and so we use all these things. So again, for you, you might be starting out with 5 people visiting your career page, and next week it's going to be 10, and the week after that it's going to be 14. But a year from now, it's going to be 150. And then you've got a track record. So measure this stuff so you can figure out what your progress is. You have candidates, you're interviewing them. I'm going to suggest to you that you need a database, not just an Excel spreadsheet, okay? Get an applicant tracking system, get a CRM, do something. The frequent pushback I get from my startup and either the entrepreneur or the HR folks are, well, an ATS costs $100, $200, $300 a month. Yeah, and I get that. What's the cost of missing out on that senior Ruby developer because you didn't have them going through the pipeline in a database, or that you didn't get back to them in 4 months because you knew 6 months from now they were going to be looking and you wanted a 60-day ramp-up time to get them in your door? What about those contractors that you need, but you just don't? You're not keeping track of them. Do something. You in some way track all this information. Frankly, those are the highlights. It really is that short and simple. Like I said, normally the presentation is anywhere from an hour long to a half-day boot camp. But a couple of questions to go back and ask you again. What's your story what's your employer story? What's your startup or tech company story? How are you telling it? Are you letting people know that you're hiring? And just how aggressive are you being? So I get that that's short, maybe a little too short, but I just wanted to get something out again. Ahead of, or so that I got some information to show to people after Minibar is over. Folks who've been asking, hey, how do I do this or how do I get started? I can at least point them to this. So again, if you've got questions, send me an email, paul@mnheadhunter.com, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. So I hope this has been of some help. Take care. Thanks a lot.